Okay, well, let's get into spoiler territory. See how that transition went? That was pretty good. That ruins the
I can't believe
transition.
everyone died in this episode.
I know.
Wow, that's so weird. Unprecedented. And they were replaced by like the entire cast of TNG. That's bizarre.
Yeah. All right. So, spoiler review of Electric Sheep, season 3, New Horizons of the Orville, first episode. And if you landed here, then it on YouTube, I will be putting the thing way over there for the non-spoiler review, because we're going to jump right into this and spoil the snot out of this show.
Yeah.
So, yeah, everybody dies. So we mentioned earlier that the new character, the actress is Ann Winters playing Charlie Burke. I knew from Wikipedia that we're going to have a new cast member for the season, and this
okay.
Yeah, she's on board.
Had not realized that she was going to be past episode 1, so that actually adds an interesting dimension to the character now.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, and it does make sense, because in last season, Lamar moved from the bridge to start running engineering, and so we needed somebody else on operations, and instead of just having just a rotating extra that would never, it does make sense to have someone else replace his role in that station. But
makes sense.
Yeah, like so Isaac very early in the episodes is kicked out of his lab because they're doing all these upgrades for the Orville, and so he goes to the mess hall. He does not need to eat. He is a robot. He is I almost said Cylon. Holy smokes. Kalon. Not at all a Cylon. Don't be thinking Cylon. They're not the same thing at all. They're also not the Borg. And he sits down at a table and everybody leaves. And so Charlie Burke sits down and is like, "Oh, this is the sweet one," and talks to him a little bit. And it's like, don't you feel, does it feel bad when people leave like that? And seems to be really, really trying to understand him. Nope.
Her acting was really good during that section.
Yes, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's how we're getting the new character. Isn't this sweet?" Yeah. No, that's not what she was doing at all. I am both pleased and astonished that they introduced a new character like this, because she is the villain of this episode. As much as somebody is a villain, and as much as we understand her position, because she was on one of the ships that the Kalon destroyed, and her best friend sacrificed herself to save Charlie, and she sat down again to Isaac to tell him off and to tell him how much everybody hates him. And I wrote down her last line: "It makes people sick to look at you." It was an incredible scene, and I was like, "Oh, they're not messing around, are they?"
No. And you don't even see the flashback at that point, do you? Or is that later in the episode?
Yeah, no, you see her flashback.
You see that?
Yeah.
Okay, you do. Okay. So it even adds more of an emotional gut punch when you realize, okay, this is what she's been through, but this guy, this is a good character. We like this guy. We're supposed to be rooting for this guy, and she's telling him off right then and there.
Right.
It's very unambiguous that she is very angry.
Well, in this does play to what we mentioned in the non-spoiler thing, is this temptation of the episodic show, that you do something freaking huge and it's amazing, but then the next episode everything is back to normal, and it doesn't feel right. One of my favorite scenes in early Deep Space Nine is in the first episode, where Picard actually starts talking to Cisco, and Cisco's resisting it the entire time, and it's finally like, "Do I know you or something?" He's like, "Well, I was at Wolf 359." And Picard's like, oh crap, I killed your ship. And it forced Picard to face that. And Picard, much like Mercer does, ends up pulling rank on Sisko, which was a complete dick move. But it was one of those things in that episode of Deep Space Nine where he's finally he's like, well, look, I'm a captain, you're a commander, so do what I say. And Sisko goes, yes sir, and walks out. And it's an incredibly tense scene. It's a really good scene. But that's the kind of stuff I mean, I like. I want the episodic episode, but when Isaac betrays everyone and sets them up to die, then he changes his mind and saves them. That things don't go back to normal. No. And I think that's this episode in the first section of it does a really good job of communicating that. We didn't even touch on Marcus's dream, which we will, but it, like, everything is at this point is communicating that, like, we don't trust this guy or this robot. And that's very understandable. And it was weird that Mercer offered to keep him aboard, and this is the fallout of that.
Which is great to see, like, choices actually having consequences, because you know, again, bringing up Data from the Next Generation, he betrays the crew like how many times? I mean, you know, he's mind controlled, you know, most of those times, but even still, it's just like, this is super dangerous. Like, this guy could like take over the ship at any second and like basically get everybody killed. It's like, that's not cool, but everybody's fine with it.
That's Sigourney Weaver in Aliens, you know. Don't trust androids. Bad. Now, the android in Aliens was a good one. Spoilers. But but yeah, like I think that was really good. So the whole thing starts, and this is one of the ways the show recast the war, in case you missed it. We see the battle, and this was a fantastic sequence. We're actually seeing it in Marcus's dream, but we see the exterior of the battle of the ships just falling against this enemy. They're being wiped out, and then it comes in to Marcus and his efforts to get to his brother. Marcus is the older son of the Doctor, and the Doctor and Isaac had a weird relationship last season, but Isaac has been kind of filling in as a father figure for the two boys since season 1. This is it's actually the first episode I thought was truly great, was when Isaac was starting to step up as a father figure. But Marcus finds Ty, his brother, and then they find Isaac, and they're like, "Oh, Isaac, you found us!" And then his eyes go red, which they did in the war, and then he ends up with a mouth and fangs and snarls at him because it's a dream. And it was very unexpected, but really well done. It was like that. I communicated the point very well, and so we're introduced to the emotions of the crew, which is mostly hatred and fear during this upgrade. And like everywhere Isaac goes, you see people staring at him and trying to get out of his way. Which is
again is an understandable response.
Yes,
if you've seen all these robots basically just like murder everybody.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah. Looking at them a little bit.
Like, yeah, they all just went through this. So while the lab is being upgraded, somebody comes in and paints murderer on the wall, and because the lab was being upgraded at the time, it wasn't recording who did it, and so that's the setup of this episode. And immediately, because Charlie told him off in front of everybody, she gets called in, and what she starts saying right away is you do get the sense is very, very reasonable and speaking for the crew. You know, when she tells Mercer, you have a problem, like this isn't Like everyone on board lost somebody in this fight. Everyone. And you're letting the person who set us up walk around the ship. And I thought Mercer showed some wisdom and good vulnerability in saying, yeah, I made that decision. I'm still not sure it was right. I thought it was a cool scene. And
it was good to see like the military or whatever kind of organization they are, the chain of command being respected in that regard, I think, because she did ask for permission to speak freely and she was totally fine keeping her thoughts to herself. But the fact that she's just like, yeah, this is what everybody thinks, probably deal with it. Even he's just like, yeah, I shouldn't be admitting this because this is not a good captain move, but I can agree with you to an extent. We need to move on and figure this out together. So
right, yeah,
I appreciated that a lot. Like the interactions feel genuine and human, but there's still a sense of like professionalism there, which you don't necessarily get from a lot of modern sci-fi shows.
Yeah,
kind of weird.
Yeah. And as we progress, and this is much later in the episode, but when Gordon is testing the new fighter jet, the Pterodon, when it lands, he's talking to Charlie, and now we're starting to see Charlie as not just somebody who's angry, but actually instigating things. And even though she's not the one who wrote Murder on the Wall, she tells Gordon, I don't think you should ignore it. And he goes, what are you supposed to do? And she says, stay angry. And so she's actually riling up the crew, which again, this is our new hero. It's wild. I absolutely love that they went down this road, because it's like we don't see her in a good light at all in this episode, and at least until the end. But even then, it's not I was wrong and Isaac is a good person. It's not that at all. And so absolutely, I love that. I'm going out of order a little bit here, but kind of connecting the scenes with Charlie in it.
The one thing about that scene that you just mentioned with Gordon is that he's actually pretty much on her side in this issue. He's like, no, I feel the same way. And the fact that there's now like maybe not necessarily a known rift between the captain and Gordon, who are like best friends and have been best friends for years, but now that there's like this rift that could potentially grow into something more dramatic or potentially like actually messing up the status quo in any way, shape, or form. I feel like that's a good thing to see this early on, and I definitely want to be looking specifically between their interaction, or looking at their interactions between them from here on out, just to see like, okay, what's going on here? What are they trying to tell us? I thought that was really well done. It was just a quick mention, and then that's it. It didn't come up again for the rest of the episode.
Well, and Gordon is normally the comic relief, except for the iPhone episode, which is one of the best. A spectacular episode in season 2, but he's normally the butt of the joke. I was about to say that one episode Isaac pulls his leg. Anyway, I
totally forgot about that one. Okay, I need to go back and rewatch this.
I just rewatched that one. Oh gosh, that was good. But he and I do think they're setting him up for a bit more serious role. First of all, he is the best pilot in what do they call the organization? Oh, I feel bad. I forgot. But he is the best,
union.
Thank you. He is the best pilot, and there's only rarely that we actually get to see that. We get to see that a lot in this. And the whole Pterodon sequence of it flying is very good. This was good money spent on special effects, which is apparently very hard to accomplish these days, because
I mean, between the opening scene and that scene, it's just like, man, where did all this budget come from?
I know. No, it's
some big money.
Yeah. They went all out with this, and it was and very well. So we're already seeing several different reactions to Isaac. So and this is what I love. I love about this episode is Charlie is in your face angry. Gordon is kind of passive aggressive angry. And it's like, well, what are we gonna, like, I agree. I hate sitting next to him, but what are we gonna do? We have the captain who is hoping for the best but doubting himself now. And then we get to the doctor and her family, and this is they were the closest to Isaac, and so they're the ones that are feeling this the most. So the younger son, Ty, doesn't understand what happened and just misses him, because this really wasn't like a father to him. And then you have Claire, the Dr. Finn, who is trying to deny to herself that she still loves him. And then you have Marcus, who has the most sense of betrayal, and he is the angriest. And we do find out he is the one that wrote murder. And when they confront him, it's he has some good jabs in there. When they're trying to they're scolding him for stealing access codes, and he says he kills thousands of people and I'm the one in trouble. And
yep.
Yeah. It was, yeah, it was one of those really awkward moments where it's like, yeah, he was wrong to do it, but no, he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
He's absolutely right.
He's not wrong. Yeah. I mean,
and Mercer again shows good wisdom in saying we're going to let it pass this time. But in one of the scenes that started off very funny is Claire convinces Isaac to come apologize to the kids, and he does this just like he has no idea what he's apologizing for. He's a robot. He's like, I think he says, I apologize for causing you distress. And Mark is like, is that what you think you did? And he says, like,
maybe we resume typical like emotional like interactions or whatever.
Yeah. Can we resume social interactions again?
Yes. Like yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And this is where Marcus says, I wish you were dead. And were you expecting what was coming next?
Oh no, not at all. Like I thought, okay, that seems pretty normal, but like, what's actually going to happen? Like, are they really going to take it that far? Oh no, they do. They take it that far.
No, I thought it's like, okay, Isaac is going to save them from another Kalan attack, and that's going to be it, and everybody's going to be happy. No, he kills himself, and he
very meticulously too. Like,
yes,
it's very like
thoroughly
drawn out. And he's doing like one of those, captain's log type things, like personal logs, where he's like explaining, okay, here's how you fix all this stuff on the ship while he's doing it, and you see what he's doing. It's just like,
and that's
okay.
In that scene when he's going through, it's like, and if you add this converter here, then you can get 0.3% increase in functionality, and you can either do this or this. And then he says, give my regards to the Finn family. And I was like, wait, what? And then he dies, and he fries basically his memory circuits, and I was absolutely floored that they actually did that, and like had presented such an incredibly complicated situation with all these complicated emotions, and actually had him go through with it.
Yeah. Like, not expecting. I mean, obviously you get an idea because the term electric sheep comes from the one. Can't remember who wrote it. The one science fiction book about do androids dream of electric sheep? So it's
Philip
like,
Dick. Yeah.
Okay, so it's just like, okay, well, obviously they're alluding to something here, but what exactly are they going to show in the episode? Like, is he going to be deactivated for a time due to like an accident? Is there going to be some kind of like weird sleeper program put in him that like takes over and he's got to like, I don't know, use his will to fight back against it or something? It's just like,
Right.
oh no, I was not expecting like an actual like, no, I'm just going to like kill myself and that's it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, all right, that was not expected, but okay, let's see where things go from here.
Right. And they have Yaffet to slime his way into the body to try to fix things because he can do that because he's Yaffet. And even a dramatic performance from Norm Macdonald, which was was pretty great. And
on the little tribute that they had right at the beginning, where it's just like in memory of Norm Macdonald.
Yes,
and if it's the dates that he lived, that was really well done.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that they had him recorded for this season, and they recorded his entire season. But I was really glad, and I was glad for this like this part of the episode because it like he really cares for Claire, and so he really wants to fix this for her and fix this for everybody, and he can't. His performance is really touching. I think he also looks rad in the spacesuit because they give him a humanoid spacesuit because he's a slime. He just fits into it. And that the one scene when he comes back in and the spaceship suit just falls over and he slides out of it, I thought was pretty great.
I thought that was weird because it's like you saw that in the preview and you're just like, wait, is he like in a human form? What's going on there? And then they actually show it like happening. Like, oh, okay, that's clever.
They just didn't even bother to like make him a special spacesuit. It's like you can fit in this one, whatever. And, yeah, that was good. But now the whole show turns to what is our reaction to that, and in the funeral, Mercer starts talking about is like that his legacy is complicated, and in that everybody's going to. It feels like everybody dealt with a different Isaac. That I thought was very well written and very well done, and the doctor is trying to kind of reconcile her own grief with the terrible things that he's done, and if when she's talking to Commander Grayson, I love this line that she says, "How can you love someone like that?" And Grayson says, "Do you?" It was really cool, and so she's forced to try to deal with that and figure out first of all what that means, and then and the way she puts it is what to do with it. And the way that kind of comes together when she finally goes to kind of I don't forget what they call it in Orville, but the holodeck
like simulator.
Yeah, the simulator.
Yeah,
and you know what she's going to do, but Ty is already in there. And when those doors open and Isaac and Ty are talking to one another, it's like it was. It again, the episode just took a turn there that I wasn't expecting. I was expecting her to go there for sure, but because that was their place. But you realize, yeah. I mean, Ty is being the one that's been nearly overlooked by everybody now, and he's he's hurting too, and he's hurting for someone he really was thinking of as his dad. And
the sincerity that child actors are hard to come by, like good ones at least.
Yeah.
And the sincerity that he played those scenes, like obviously the acting's a little bit hokey and he's still got a lot to learn, but that kid sold it. Like there was just such a good childlikeness that you really needed for those types of scenes to really get the point across. Like no, this is actually like heartbreaking, and this kid is trying to process it as best as he can. So definitely, like that props to that actor, because he's got a good career ahead of him. He can channel that into the future, let me tell you.
Right. Yep. Yeah. I thought both he and Marcus I thought did very well, especially because of their ages in this episode.
Especially by the end, Marcus is acting at the end. Oh my goodness! Oh, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. And so
the scene in the simulator, I think, is probably the standout scene in the entire episode for me, because she loads up the place where they had that one date in one of the previous seasons. I can't remember when they started having that date, and he was, basically presented himself as a human in those simulations. And just the fact that the camera just sits there, and it's like, this place, the significance of this place to her, and she just stands there, she sits down, and it's totally silent. And the look on her face, like, as it just subtly changes, is from second to second. And what she realizes, like, what the emotions that she's pushed down deep inside of her, that she's been neglecting this entire time. It's just like, oh my goodness. Like, you can see the pain.
Oh, they nailed that scene. And I when I watched that, that's when I messaged you that they're using their extra time well. Because they wouldn't have done that they wouldn't have done that on Fox. They wouldn't have done that on a 44-minute network TV show, because it's just, you're sitting there with her, and it takes a while.
It's very uncomfortable, like how long it takes, honestly.
Yes, yeah, and it's so well done, and I'm so glad they took the time to do that, to show us that, and okay, so like a video game analogy, it's like in Final Fantasy VI, when you're getting off the Phantom train, and Cyan is realizing what it is, and he's chasing it down because he realizes that his dead wife and son are on board, because this is the train to the afterlife, and it fades out and fades back in, and all the characters are just sitting there, and there's nothing to do in that scene except to sit for a minute, and then the story keeps going. That's that moment of no, we've got to slow down and actually explore emotions, which is tough to do on screen, but they nailed it. And
coming from a parody show, like, it's so weird. Like, you would never expect that from the first episode of the first season. It's like, okay, this is just going to be goofy, fun all the time, lightheartedness. No,
this is why I didn't watch it. This is why I didn't watch it for ages, because I didn't expect this. But this was, this stuff like that is like when TNG was firing at its best. This is the kind of stuff that they might hit on. Again, not on a network show. They would never sit that long in silence. But they would push in those directions. And
there was that one really good episode where Picard and Beverly were trapped on the one planet, I think, and they were around a campfire, and they were really pouring their hearts out to each other, and they could like sense each other's feelings and all that. Yeah. That's kind of like what it felt like it was harkening back to, because there were some moments of silence around that campfire, and they're just like, okay, obviously we know what each other's just thinking, so it's like, okay, well,
that was a good.
There's no hiding anymore.
Exactly. Yep. So then the Kaylon's attack, which is where I thought that like Isaac would save the day, and everybody, and Charlie would go, I misjudged you, Isaac. I was wrong. But he wasn't there for that. And this is important because they have upgraded this entire ship. Like, they make a point of saying, hey, tear that thing out. And they're like, it's brand new. He's like, it was new last year. It's outdated now. We're upgrading literally everything on the ship. Oh, and I forgot to mention, like, they actually do a shot into the core, which is super cool, because there's like this walkway around it, and like they're going around the lighty ball, and talking there, and I think that's part of the new engineering set that they were talking about on Twitter. But it's really cool just to like see. It's like, oh, you can go in there too. That's cool. And talking about, like, that that one alien guy dropped his lunch into the core just to see if it would mess it up, and and Captain Mercer's like, well, thank you for sacrificing your lunch for the job. And yeah, yes. They have upgraded literally everything, and when they face a single Kaylon ship, they are hopelessly outmatched. And that is super important, because it's like no, we can't beat them on firepower, and they only escape by tricking them. But that is when Mercer orders Burke to help, which we haven't dealt on with her powers any, but she
did come out a little out of the blue, so I was like, okay, that's convenient, but okay, I can let that slide for a good episode. They mentioned
it earlier. It's there. She's able to visualize fourth dimension geometry, which might mean something real. I think it's technobabble.
Sounds like it, yes.
Any of you mathematicians want to correct me, is like, no, that's actually a thing. It's very, very impressive. No, I mean, obviously, I don't know if that's really going to play into the rest of the season or not, but this was needed for this thing, because they were able to find a backup copy of Isaac in his memory banks, but it was it's very unstable, and it's using Kaylon microtechnology that the computers could not handle, and so they need her to basically reinstall Isaac, because she's able to make changes and do calculations faster than the computer can, and so would be able to keep up with the technology. And but this is the event that actually causes Mercer to order her to help, which seems to be just out of sheer desperation, because he knows it's like, we've got, like, even with the upgraded ship, we're no match. We need somebody who can, give us the inside scoop. Right. And she refuses, and then she gets spaced out of an airlock, and that's the end of the episode. It's kind of a weird, dark turn. I don't.
Bizarre, really.
Yeah. But no, I actually liked how it ended, because she talks to Marcus, who's blaming himself for Isaac's death, and he says, what he says is, I hated him. I just really didn't want him to die. And and it's kind of acknowledging that, that kind of middle ground that we can have with people, to like even dislike them greatly and not actually wish harm on them.
What a novel concept.
Amazing. But Burke,
his acting, that entire scene is like,
good.
You can see it on his face. Like, I don't know what kind of like past this kid has, but he's like channeling something like super real, or he's one of the best actors, honestly, because he's like trembling, his speech is faltering, like he is having a hard time saying what he wants to say. And I'm just like, man, that I don't see that kind of acting anymore, to be perfectly honest. Like, he was fully committed to that scene and fully in, like, emotions wise. Like, oh my goodness, it was very beautiful to watch on screen, because he's really admitting his own fault. Like, even though he feels this way,
right,
he doesn't really feel that bad. Like, that specific kind of hatred for him,
right,
unbelievably good.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And I love the way the scene was written, because Burke does not ever reach the point where she's like, no, I agree, we need Isaac. What she is seeing is her own hatred and bitterness up close, and realizing that this kid is heading down the same path, and realizing that's not a good thing. And she tells him, it's like, you don't want to be like me. And I love that scene because it kind of forced her to realize how much her own hatred has taken over and controlled her. And so she ends up reviving Isaac. And it was a great scene. And she makes a point telling him, I didn't do it for you. Take that, punk. And then she spits on him.
Well, and it's really interesting because it's showing that this character, this main character, she had some very obvious faults at the beginning, and she, within the episode, is learning one specific thing that she was doing that was obviously, not great. She's justified in a sense, but it's still kind of not a nice thing to do, basically. And so she is learning step by step, okay, maybe I didn't want to take it this far. I still hate his guts, but I don't want to take it that far to where he's actually dead. So it's like, oh yeah, characters can have faults. Weird.
Well, this is one of the themes of this episode, is the emotions that are controlling the characters that they are not acknowledging. Like, I do think that Claire is right when she tells the crew, I never believed that he didn't have emotions. I do not believe his excuse for killing himself, that the crew was running inefficiently with him around. Like, I do think that he was feeling those things, but he wasn't acknowledging them. Claire was not acknowledging or not admitting that she did love him. And Burke was not acknowledging how much she was being controlled by her own hatred. And Marcus not ultimately acknowledging that until the end, that he's very angry, but at the same time he doesn't actually want Isaac dead. And I think this is also where Captain Mercer and Commander Grayson are coming through very clearly as the wise guides of the crew, because Mercer readily acknowledges that he's not sure of his own decisions, but he is acknowledging them and assessing them, and Grayson in her conversation with Claire is kind of pointing her toward admitting the truth about herself, which everybody's trying to push down. Which I think is pretty cool, and I think that's one of the things that Claire is trying to get across to Isaac in the ending scene, where she's trying to give a robot therapy. It sounds dumb. It actually wasn't, but
no. Also, another great scene. It's genuinely good.
Yeah. Some of the things I wrote down that she says is, what you didn't take into account is the possibility of change. People who take their own life cannot distinguish the future from the present. And Isaac, in Isaac asks her, he's like, you believe that there, basically there will be change? And she says yes. And he says, okay, when can I expect a change in the behavior of my crewmates? And
yes, which makes sense,
right? Yeah. And one of the lines toward the end is that it's a lot harder to hate from up close, and that's always a good moment to kind of end up on. Marcus goes to see him in his lab later, but doesn't speak to him. But it's a cool scene to see Marcus taking those first steps, even if he does decide not to speak to him and turn around. It's good stuff.
So many good emotions in this show. Like, wow. And this is just the first episode of the season.
Yeah.
Like, well, way to start off with a bang.
Exactly. I know there's a lot of speculation that this will be it for the Orville, which, I hope it gets renewed forever, but the
fourth season's already like decided on, right? I thought they were already...
did they greenlight a fourth season?
I think so.
Oh, wait.
I think it was like for the third and the fourth season, like that is set. So reduced episode count. So it's basically just season 3, but
I'm trying.
I could be
wrong. Nothing has been made official by the network or producers.
Okay.
I don't know. It might also be an old article. I don't see that it's been confirmed, or I hope so. I'm trying to get people to watch.
It's like, it'd be great if like this one actually like lasted like a normal, length of like a Star Trek show or something. But who knows?
Yeah, like look, I have no problem with half seasons. Episode wise, I honestly, I thought the 24 episode seasons were a bit much, and most shows could not maintain quality that far. There was always like 10 or 13 standout episodes, and then a bunch of filler.
Yeah.
And so I don't mind the seasons being like, this season's 10, the previous seasons were 13 episodes. Got no problem with that at all. But I'd love a few more seasons with it, and especially if season 3 maintains this quality, because I thought this was a home run of an episode.
It will definitely go into like, if you're making your top 5 list, I feel like this episode is basically like, oh, it's right up there. Like, yeah. I mean, obviously we haven't seen the rest of the season yet, but compared to what we got before and everything, like this, even among some really good episodes, is a standout episode. So I really liked it. And it does make me a little nervous, because it's like, oh boy, you start off with such a home run. It's just like, what's going to happen afterwards?
Well, season premiere, season finales, they're supposed to be the big ones. The big tentpole plot ones. True. Some stuff that they showed in the previews is that they're going to go I guess through Krill space at some point, and they get permission to explore beyond there, which should be pretty interesting, and bring in some new aliens and situations and stuff. I think the Krill are pretty great villain race, and I like the progression that they've had with them. Has been very, very good. And yeah, otherwise, I'm not sure exactly what's gonna be going on in the future episodes. But episode 2 is going to be called Shadow Realms.
Oh, Babylon 5 crossover. Okay.
Yeah.
Or Yu-Gi-Oh, depending on, where your fandom's coming from.
That's it. When they cross Krill space on the other side, they run across Babylon 5 and land there and get a technomancer to join the ship. And
oh my gosh. Wouldn't that be something? You have to wonder, what does Seth MacFarlane think of Babylon 5? Someone needs to ask him that question.
That'd be a good question. Of Seth, buddy, we'd love to have you on. I can promise you right now there will be much gushing. It's going to be softball question after softball question. It's like there's going to be no threats here unless we get into Family Guy. Me personally, I'm not a fan, but this great. really getting into your music too. Let's make it happen.
The singing is wonderful. I played it for my wife the other night. She's just like, it's a really good voice.
Yeah.
What a good throwback to such a, bygone era.
Great. And that's the thing. It's like and having gone through the progression of the Orville, like I see how this is Seth MacFarlane, Mm-hmm. But like if you just sat me down and played me this episode and played me his music, it's like, this is the Family Guy dude. Like, no, it's not.
No possible way.
It's somebody with a similar name. You're clearly on crack. But,
it's Seth MacFarlane with a
right,
D.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah, no, exactly. And yeah, very, very promising. Anything else we need to say about our robot friend before we put him to bed and let him dream those electric sheep? It's a little bit of a stretch for the time there, but
now that I'm here, I'm just
stuff.
Continually impressed as normal, and I'm just waiting to see like what can they really do at the end of the season. Like starting it off like this and seeing whatever the season ending is going to be. Oh, that's going to be crazy.
Yeah. This is a show like that has gotten continually better. From like and we see that in Star Trek too. I mean, like both TNG and DS9 season 1 were not their best seasons. I think the pilot episode of each were quite good, but season 1s were not their best seasons, and they got better. But it
took them a while to get there. Honestly, like they were like 3 to 4 seasons in before they really started getting like really good.
Yeah,
firing on all cylinders.
And the Orville took much less time than that. I think it found its footing midway through season 1. Season 2 was just straight fire. Season 2 was great, and I'm looking forward to more. So we'll wrap it up there. Thank y'all so much for joining us. The plan is to keep doing these. We do not know at this point if we're going to both be able to meet together every single week, but that is the hope, at least, and we're going to try our best.
Hope and the dream.
If any comments if you're following us on YouTube, please comment. Twitch.tv/TechnoFunkBoy is where we're generally going to be streaming, unless circumstances are that we just got to record and we can't stream. But the plan is to stream these when we are able, which might not be a set schedule, but if you follow us, we'll let you know. Henshin Dad himself, thank you for joining, and appreciate you. And if y'all enjoyed this talk, we just, like a couple of weeks ago, spent like 8 hours recording for the backlog breakdown, which is neither one of our podcasts.
No, it was the beefiest of boys. Oh yeah.
Yes, but subscribe to them and you can check that out. But really appreciate you, and we'll catch y'all next time.